Hello and welcome to this very special edition of Beyond Sports with me, Digvijay Singh. The best in world tennis have gathered in Australia for the first Grand Slam of the year. There's been a lot of action in the tennis courts, but there's also been some action away from the tennis courts. I am delighted to be joined from Melbourne by men's singles world number 4 and Red Bull athlete Stefanos Tsitsipas.
Hello, how are you?
Stefanos, thank you for joining me. I was scrolling through your social media handles, and I must doff my hat at the humor you sort of employ at times, and just keeping in that same vein. And I don't mean to offend you, but would it be right for me to say that? And add to my introduction that I'm joined also by a man who is a big contender for the Australian Open title if his elbow holds up.
Yes, this has been the main concern from the very beginning. I had a difficult surgery. I haven't had one before, and it took a lot of time for me to recover and feel normal again. So for sure contending on very much for that title, as you said. My elbow does feel significantly better than before, and I think I'm able to play now with no pain, which is a great thing to see. The recovery has been perfect, and I think more the days pass, more confident I feel in my game, and more I feel I can step it up every single day.
Yes, and it's remarkable for you to say that, isn't it, Stefanos? Because you had your surgery at what in the end of November. Here we are in the second week of January, and you've had what 3.5 matches on the ATP Cup.
Correct. Yeah, my surgery happened right after Nito finals ended. I think 2 or 3 days after the final of that event. And I was 4 weeks away from tennis. I stayed away from tennis, didn't touch the racket. And my recovery ever since has been very good. Even the doctor kind of agreed that I've been recovering faster than I should have, which it's great news for me. And I was about to say that things like this, when things like this happen, it's very difficult physically, mentally, a combination of so many things to see it as a good thing. But I'm just grateful. I'm very grateful that I found the right people. I found the right doctor, and it has been going close to what I was before a few years ago, which is a big mental relief, knowing that I won't have to struggle that much again.
Yes, you spoke about the pain that you were having to go through while competing in matches. Now, while professional sports persons, and I don't just mean tennis players, professional sports persons always sort of tend to carry some sort of niggles, or they always sort of play through some sort of pain. What convinces an elite sports person like you that no, I can't take this anymore and I have to go in under the knife?
Well, it's a decision that didn't come very easy. My father was involved too. And the best we could come up with was that obviously it was not something that we thought in the very beginning would solve things. But at the end, it was the only solution. And in combination with something else that I had to do before that, it would have been the ultimate. So we really closed our eyes and went for it, and had 100% trust in the doctor's skills.
Okay. As you said, hopefully this is going to keep you completely pain-free. Now, I have to address the sort of burning issue, not just in your sport, but also in world sport at the moment, because this is the story that's dominating the global headlines. As someone who competes across the tennis court with Novak Djokovic, how do how have you seen this current situation unfold? Because we've had the ATP, we've had a lot of players come out and say that whatever's happened isn't good for the image of tennis.
Well, there has been a lot of talks about it in the last 4 or 5 weeks, I would say. People were constantly talking about it, and it was the number one topic that was discussed these days. And I think there was no real talk about tennis, the game, the actual game, and more about what he's going to do, what's going to happen, and that part. And it just showed where all the interest was. Obviously, when you're one of the best tennis players in the world, there's going to be a lot of interest around you and a lot of demand, and people will always want to know, and even gossip sometimes. But how I see it is that it's everyone's decision. Everyone has the freedom to choose for themselves and decide for themselves. Whether some people see that as not respecting the human race or humans in general, that's up to anyone really. But your body is a very important thing. It's your machine, and you have to protect it. If you feel you are threatened, or if you feel not as safe as others, talking about the sensitive issue that has been bothering us the last couple of years with this pandemic, then again you shouldn't proceed, or you should proceed accordingly.
Okay, fair enough. That's a very sort of a personal view coming from a top elite level sports person. But as you said, certain players and people like you are all global icons. You're sort of role models for the younger generation. Considering that, do you feel that Djokovic has sort of set a wrong example by admitting to breaching COVID rules?
Breaching, well, for sure, he has been playing with by his own rules, and has been doing something that not many players had the guts to go and do, especially after ATP announced certain criteria for players to enter the country. No one would have really thought, I can just come to Australia unvaccinated, and not having to follow the protocols that they gave me, which is just, it takes a lot of daring to do, I think, and putting a Grand Slam kind of at risk, which is, again, I don't think many players would do that. I chose to go and be 100% ready for whatever was to come, and not having to think about anything else. For me, it worked that way. For Novak, it worked another way. Nothing that doesn't really mean that my way is the right one and his way is the wrong one. It's just each person's perception about it.
Okay, fair enough. And as you said in the beginning as well, it's the way you want to approach the situation. But 3-4 days before the tournament begins, Australians clearly don't want him to play over there. Where does the tennis community stand on there? Should Novak Djokovic defend his title, considering the questions that are circling around in world sport? Well,
there are two ways to look at it. I'll tell you. One way is every single player, almost. The stats say that 98% of the players have been vaccinated and did what they had to do in order to come and perform and play in Australia. So one side of it is, we've all kind of followed the protocols in order to compete in Australia, and we've been very disciplined in that part. And in the other sense, I'd say that, it kind of seems like not everyone is playing kind of by the rules of how Tennis Australia or some governments have been putting things, and each and single one of a very small majority of that percentage chose to follow their own way, which kind of makes the rest, the majority, makes the majority look like, I don't know, like they're all fools or something.
Okay. I going through your sort of social media profiles, I knew to expect a very honest response for you. I won't press you more on this, and I'll move on. You've had some epic duels with Novak Djokovic over the course of your career. Of course, everyone does talk about the French Open final of 2021, and it was your first Grand Slam final. What did that sort of defeat teach you, Stefanos?
It taught me a lot. It taught me that I should never defend too much, and I should just be going for it. And perhaps, staying back and kind of overthinking it in ways that, not attacking enough or not really going for it enough, that can sometimes cost you. And that has been the case in that final, after being 2-0 up. I kind of felt like I backed down a little bit, but I also felt like he raised his level a lot in that final. I felt like after taking that break at 2-0, he kind of refreshed himself. I felt like he entered the court kind of in a different mindset, and I saw a different Novak perform from that part of the match on.
Okay, so Novak Djokovic does it, he gets away. But if you take a break, people sort of question you. I won't get down that route. But Stefanos, for the longest time, for you growing up as well, it was always Roger Federer, Novak Djokovic, and Rafael Nadal who were winning the Grand Slams, almost all Grand Slams over the last decade. And there was also, perhaps you need to throw in Sir Andy Murray, you also need to throw in Stan Wawrinka. But you look at the last 2 years. In the last 2 years, Dominic Thiem has won a Grand Slam. Daniil Medvedev has won a Grand Slam. You've been in a final. Matteo Berrettini has been in a final. Alexander Zverev has also been in a final. Do you get a sense now that the change of guard it's almost imminent?
Well, it's around the corner. We've been doing our part the last couple of years as much as we can. We haven't had the presence of the top four as much, and when it comes to participation in Grand Slams, but we've been very close, all of us. Matteo has been close. Alexander has been close. Daniil is kind of already redeemed for his efforts with his first US Open title. I can see a lot of us competing for this kind of titles and have the ability to win one of the Grand Slams. So we are really we're surrounded by a lot of young, talented players, I think, that have the abilities to lift Grand Slam trophies and win in big stages like this.
Is that your goal, Stefanos? Is that your goal in 2022? Now that you've got that, you won the next gen final, you won the ATP finals, you also won the Masters 1000. You've been in the Grand Slam final. Is that your big goal when you sort of sat in that hospital bed and got the elbow fixed? Is that what you looked at?
I did kind of have a. I reflected on what happened that year, and I had lots of time to think and reflect on my year. Look at some of my matches, and it gave me a good understanding of what I went through that year and how much physical effort I put in. I was not expecting as much for my season to go the way it did after the French Open. I felt like there was a little bit of a gap there where I could have done a little bit better and could have generated a little bit more, little more points that could have helped me finish the year at number 3. But despite that, I think I can use this to my advantage and kind of manage it better next time.
Okay, considering the success that you've had over the last 3 or 4 years, and since you were recovering from your elbow surgery, were you surprised to hear the comments from Alexander Zverev saying that Djokovic, Zverev, and Medvedev were the ones he thought were going to dominate the Grand Slams in 2022?
I don't usually read what Zverev says on media or press, but my idea of that is that tennis should do the talking at the end. So no matter if it's him or someone else, I think that the tennis itself will show.
Okay, very well played. I think it's a serve straight down the tee. But you know, there aren't too many players, Stefanos, of the current generation who've beaten Federer, Nadal, and Djokovic twice over the course of their careers. How would you today approach a match against these three players compared to perhaps 2019, where you won your tour finals?
Well, I don't know. Roger hasn't played in a long time. Rafa is someone that is present these days. Novak has been the most difficult player so far to beat, I believe. Well, it requires a lot of attention, and you cannot let your attention run free when you're playing with them. Attention meaning, you know, concentration, the level of focus you put in every single point, and that is what separates them from the rest, from the mortals. So it is important to enter each single match with them, you know, with a 100% confident mindset. And I think mentally is the way to go, because, you know, tennis is there, but if you break loose at some point, it can really kill you against them. And this is the ultimate challenge when approaching a match like this.
Okay, I'm speaking to you, Stefanos, from India, where we don't usually have too many tennis superstars. In fact, we haven't had a singles player at the top of the world stage for a long time. You come from Greece, which also doesn't have a history that much of producing tennis superstars. How do you think your success is now changing the way Greece looks at tennis?
From a much more professional point of view, I would say they look at it more seriously. People, instead of watching football and basketball, now also spend time watching tennis on a regular basis. And it has helped tremendously on the development of the sport in our country, you know, meaning tennis clubs are more busy than ever before. There are tennis academies that are being built, and lots of kids apply to be part of these academies and to participate. So tennis has taken a big kind of has been a big success in the last couple of years, and you know, I wouldn't say from the federation there has been any kind of any development from that side, but when it comes to popularity and demand, it has grown a lot.
Okay, and young kids especially want to see somebody they relate to winning. And while you were alone for a while, you aren't the only one now. In fact, last year, Maria Sakkari won, reached to Grand Slam semi-finals as well. And you both came very close to winning an Olympic medal. You know, you all lost a match tiebreaker to Ashley Barty and a partner at Tokyo. Had you all won that, it could have been a bronze medal.
Yes, we were very close. And again, I like to believe that two are stronger than one. And our presence at this kind of level has inspired a few people back home or not. And yeah, I tend to believe that you know, having one from the men's side, one from the women's side can have a massive influence back in the country and inspire younger generations to pursue that sport in years to come.
You know, since I'm talking about Greek superstars, I can't ignore Giannis Antetokounmpo as well. He's someone you are in touch with, you're friends with. Do you all exchange notes about life and about succeeding at the top of your respective sports?
With Yanis, we have a very special bond. I've spent a few hours with him, and he's a very humble guy. I really like Yanis. He's one of my favorite human beings. We had a discussion with him 2 summers ago, and we covered everything from him being a super Nick Kyrgios fan to talking about.
There aren't too many of them around.
To talking about spirituality and growth and success and sports and mindsets and all of the above. We had a very good time together, sharing, me sharing from my sport, him sharing from his sport, and having kind of something to relate to in life. It was a great time, and I'm pretty sure it's going to happen again when we both happen to see each other again in Greece, if that allows us with our tight schedules. But I've learned a lot from him, and he's someone that I respect a lot, and I want very much for him to succeed in whatever he does, because it will help me to aim higher. I suppose it will also help him in some way. I don't know exactly. But Yanis has given me a lot of hope that great things can come from hard work and dedicating yourself and putting 100% of yourself out there, whether that's on the field or the court or the track, and being present and being grateful for the life, for the presence that life has given us. And that's what I've learned from Yanis. I truly admire him. He's an incredible human being.
Absolutely. And just hearing the way you speak about him, I guess he will have the same words to share about you as well. Now, you're someone who loves traveling. You love documenting your traveling with photography as well. Have you ever, Stefanos, visualized what you would do or where you would visit when you win your first Grand Slam? I somehow can sort of figure out, considering the love you have for Greece, of you standing on top of the Acropolis. Have you ever thought on those lines?
I've thought about about that. Yeah, that would probably then be the #1 destination for me after Grand Slam title, the Parthenon and Acropolis. Yeah, at the very high of Athens. The higher it gets, the better. So that would be my bucket list destination after a title.
Yes, it truly is a remarkable place. I've been there many years ago, and that's why it came to my mind. But I'm going to remember this. I'm going to save this piece of conversation. And when you get there, I'm going to reach out again to you and remind you once again of this conversation, because it's not always, and perhaps it's the first time in my career that I've sort of woken up and stayed awake till 4 a.m. for an interview. Hopefully that day comes soon, Stefanos. Hopefully it comes in the next 2 weeks. Here's wishing you the very best for the Australian Open. And thank you so much for joining us on WION.
Thank you for having me. It was a great interview. Thank you.